sir?
Yeah.
It's falling in time, sir. Up! Leg! Order! Hups! Stand at 8! Evening.
There wasn't a real close fit at all between Clive Dunn and Corporal Jones.
I keep telling you, my name is Jack Jones.
Lie! Lie! Lie!
It's the truth, I tell you. I'm a butcher.
Jones was a great patriot,
Your country needs you.
very conservative, very deferential.
Come along, pay attention to the officer. Men are now paying attention, sir.
Thank you, Jones.
Dunn, if anything, was the opposite, very patriotic, but certainly very radical and very iconoclastic in many ways.
When the war started, Britain was a very class-ridden society. Not so much now, but it was.
He's got a paper door. Imagine a man, Mr. Manning Status, sitting in an office with a paper door.
No, that is only made of paper.
And what's worse, I tore it.
I mean, I went to a public school and it was an absolutely dreadful place, really.
Ask me, the whole system reeks of depravity.
Yes, but it turned out some very brave officers, you know, because they've been through all that depravity.
Anyway.
Jones loved the war. He was a professional soldier.
Don't jerk the trigger, Pikey. You squeeze it like a lemon.
Corporal Jones was a veteran from the Boer War and all those bits and pieces, so he's quite an old chap when the war started.
Hold still, you silly old fool. Don't you speak to me like that. I'm a Lance Corporal, I am.
He adored it, whereas Clive Dunn had had a very bad war. He'd been a prisoner of war.
Well, whether it's true or not, I remember Clive describing his war as being called up at 17, training, landing in Italy, and the next day he was in a prisoner of war camp, and that was it.
I'm not supposed to be here, you know. It's all a mistake.
But I was an old soldier. I mean, I'd been in the army for 7 years. I'd been a prisoner of war for 4 years, and I'd been an acting Lance Corporal for about 6 weeks. So I knew how to behave, really.
Silence in the ranks, Private Fraser. Up out! Up! To begin! Up! Up out! Up! Up out! Up!
You're pushing your luck a bit there, Corporal.
I wasn't their first choice anyway, apparently. They were asked Jack Haig to do it.
Jack Haig was going to play the Clive Dunn part, and he wasn't available.
So then they asked me.
He fortunately rung up John Le Mesurier.
Well, John Le Mesurier is a great old friend of mine, and he said he'd been asked to play the sergeant. And I said, are you going to do it? He said, I don't know.
And John said, well, I don't know, are you going to do it? But I'll do it if you do it. And he said, well, I don't mind doing it if you do it.
And while I was fiddling about trying to make up my mind, I think they asked David Jason, I've heard.
David Jason was another of my wife's clients. I read him in the part of Jones. But I was a bit scared about trying to stick a sort of a boy in his 20s into a 70-year-old part. I thought it was a terrible strain on the makeup department.
Well, when I started playing it, I was a good deal younger in 1968. How old was I? 48? I can't remember. Something like that. And, but I'd played a lot of old men, you know.
As far as I know, he first did his old man in concert party in a prisoner of war camp in Austria and did it for the rest of his life.
Well, aren't you going to ask me what the crisis is?
You cut your finger.
Who told you? And I can still give them the old cold steel, you know, sir. I can still shove it right up.
Yes, all right, thank you.
They don't like it up 'em was when I was called up into the real army with the bayonet instructors. You get your ear, oh, yeah, and you, yeah, good. And the only thing you could get was, they don't like it up 'em, you know. They do not like it up 'em.
They don't like it up 'em, sir. They don't like it up 'em.
That particular line, I thought that old butcher would say that, because he's always digging his knife into meat and things.
We never wrote catchphrases as such. I think the public choose them and then we exploit them. But don't panic was very much one. And
There's a telephone. There's a telephone. Don't panic. Don't panic. There's a telephone. Don't panic. The ball away. Germans are coming, don't panic, the Germans are coming! The Germans are coming! Don't panic, he's going to blast us out! Don't panic!
I spent most of the war in a panic.
Permission to speak, sir.
Permission to speak, sir, we put in because in the Victorian Army that he would been in and the Edwardian Army, you had to say permission to speak, sir.
Permission to speak, sir? Permission to be suggestive, sir. Permission for you to see a deputation, sir.
Don't panic, don't panic. They don't like it up from stupid boy. Have all gone down really into the history of our language in a way.
We should all dress up as a bunch of fifth columnists and roam the countryside, and that would give the town a fright.
Oh, no. I think you're getting into the realms of fantasy now, Joe.
Dad's Army was... It had great writing, great dialogue, great subtle acting, but it also was a wonderful showcase for slapstick. The likes of Clive Dunn were extremely skilled in all kinds of pratfalls and physical humour.
What we used to call Joey Joey.
The Joey Joeys, the screwball comedy, the knockabout stuff.
That's what a Joey Joey is.
There you go, sir. Then we got that wobbly tower of furniture.
Because I was sort of greedy for that sort of thing.
Jones has got guts. I don't know what we'd do without him.
And David agreed to that.
That man's as brave as a lion.
They'd get a stunt man in case it was a bit too dangerous, and I balked at it. David seemed to like me to do it if I could, because then he could come close up on you, and it saved a lot of problems with camera work and that sort of thing. I knew David Croft was a very old friend of mine. As a matter of fact, his father was a musical comedy star, theatre, and he toured around in musical comedies. And my mother, at one stage, was in the same touring show, and they had an affair. So a terrific scandal went on. And so David Croft was nearly my auntie or something like that, I'm not quite sure.
I have fallen in love, Captain Manning, with a woman.
I think Jones had his followers, but only because he was giving them the odd sausage and the odd slice of corned beef, which is, you know.
I'm only a humble butcher, you know. Is it true affection she feels for me? Does she love me for myself? Or does she love me for my meat?
During the war, women always had to make love to the butcher to get some meat, so there was a big element of truth in that.
I'm taking them to Mrs. Prosser. I look after her sometimes. I don't think it'll come to anything. She's 83.
I think they would have done anything for that. Whether Jonesy could have taken it up, I don't know. But eventually, of course, he married Mrs. Fox.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Jack and Mildred.
And thank you all for coming along. And good health, everyone. Good
health. I loved him dearly. He was a lovely man. I flirted with him. Yes, I did. But I loved him. And I love him still. As though now he doesn't need any makeup because he is old Jonesy.
We were sitting in his restaurant in Portugal a few years ago. We were using the restaurant, it was closed. We were using it to cook in just the two families. And he said, and he suddenly grabbed my arm and said, "You've got to stop me doing that." I said, "Why?" I said, "Because I don't need to act it anymore."
Who will think you're kidding, Mr. Hitler, when you say old England's done? We are the boys who eat your sandwiches. We are the boys who will make you think again. Who do you think you're kidding, Mr. Hitler, when you say old England's done? Home God needs you.
And through Dad's Army, I had a wonderful part, beautifully written, and a terrific opportunity to make a lot of people laugh if I did the right thing. And that was an absolute gift for me, and I should be forever grateful.
Bum, 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 bum.